Yay, we're recording. So it is 7:30 a.m. on March 9th, Wednesday, 2006. I feel like I'm giving a video from someone who was captured.
Oh, my word.
At least we've got the giggles today.
I know, right?
So even though everybody has a different version of the book,
Whoops.
like I think as we were talking, Nicole's book is the older version, so she was missing some of the things. But I think it's really cool how like all the information that people are getting from it, like in text messages or in Facebook messages or emails from people. Like it's cool to see what people are pulling from each chapter. And I know for a fact it is not a coincidence that we are reading this book now because of what is coming. And it's scary, but it's also super, super exciting. So today we have chapter 19, 20, and 21 left. And so we're going to cover that. So maybe what I'll do is I know people have to get off early and other people will be watching the recording. So what if I run through each chapter super quickly and then both of you input something that stood out from that chapter? And Nicole's chapters might be different names than ours are. So if that's the case, Nicole, I'm sorry. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay, so 19 is the law of timing. And this one was ironic because I like how he's saying that depending on when you do something, the timing of when you do it is the difference between success and failure in any endeavor. And this is true for us because most of what we're doing is like taking a whole bunch of people that are all scattered all over and like changing the direction that they're going, whichever way. So the first thing he covers is number 1, the wrong action at the wrong time will lead to disaster. And he goes on to give an example about that. Number 2 is the right action at the wrong time will bring resistance. So if what you're doing is correct, but maybe the timing of it is bad, everybody's going to doubt everything about you. And so then he goes into people need to understand the situation. They need to be mature leaders because if the motives aren't right, their timing will be off. A leader needs to have confidence that the people that are following them are going to follow them when they need them. Having decisiveness because people do not follow wishy-washy leaders. Or if they do, that in turn creates and leads wishy-washy followers. So as I was reading through this, I was kind of doing my own evaluation, I guess, on myself of these things and being like, okay, where am I on a scale of 1 to 10? Do I like that? The next one's experience. And if the leader does not possess experience, then they need to gain wisdom from the other people around them who do. The next thing's intuition and how timing often depends on intangibles such as momentum and morale, but we need to have the intuition of when that's a good thing. And then lastly, preparation, because if the conditions aren't right, the leader must create those conditions. And that's super cool because if you look back on any part of this, it is all up to you as the leader. And that can be daunting, but at the same time, look how much power you can have in the sense of what you can control or help create because you took the time to do it. Like that's super cool because that means that every person, and I don't care if they're listening to a recording or if people come back through this book study, and hopefully that's the case, we can just keep these recordings and let people come back through these book studies and they can do them and follow up with what we got from them. But how cool is that to be able to take, like, we have control over ourselves, and the more information we put in, obviously the better the information is going to come out, the better our team is going to look because of the people that we took the time to grow. So it all comes back to us. One of the things that I highlighted here says, if a leader repeatedly shows poor judgment, even in little things, people will start to think that having him as the leader is a real mistake. So that kind of goes back to the confidence and decisiveness and like the maturity of what they're doing. because I've seen this happen on my team time and time and time and time and time and time and time again. So what happens is that they quit listening to the person that's above them and they start to go above. And if they don't like what that person's doing, they go above that person. And before you know it, they're going directly up to NVPs. And that is that's going against what the plan for developing leaders is. Like, yes, we want to develop them, but we need to be mature enough to handle all the confrontations and all the differences between people so that that's not happening. And if it happens because of personalities, don't beat yourself up over it. Like, it's going to happen more than once. But learn from them. It was so cool. I got to work with Stephanie last weekend, and it's been somebody that our personalities have not really hit off since the day she signed up. Like, kind of did, and then it was just disaster, honestly. And on Saturday when we were finished, she was just like, I don't know what you're doing, but I like what I'm seeing in you. And I just grinned and I was like, yay, that's because I'm working really hard. Like, I'm trying so hard to grow. That's awesome. And she started laughing and she's like, keep doing it because it's evident. Like, that is cool because that's somebody that would not, it didn't matter what I said. Nothing I said had value ever. So
right.
Then he goes into, like, after you shut down, like, if you're trying something and it's not working.
Your
What's that?
internet connection isn't like.
You're going in and out right now.
That's because your internet is wacky.
Okay, I will turn my phone off in case that's pulling it because we have some of these things tied to our internet.
Just saying, I can hear Grace just fine, but not so much Jen, so I don't
really?
know.
Yeah, I was going to say. I can hear everything going on in Nicole's background. Okay, but after they're talking about, like, at the bottom of 237, he's talking about they tried to make a system work, and after the system that they were trying failed, it wasn't that the system was failing, it was that the people weren't ready for it. So they shut down the original system, they retrained the leaders, and they started over again. And the second time around, it was extremely successful. As I was reading this, like, Nicole left me a message and was just talking about, like, what she was reading was just, like, giving you a ray of hope. I read this and was like, this is my team. The problem that was going on and just kept seeping further down in my team was this book. It was that the leaders, quote unquote, did not know what was going on. They could not implement it. So they all took their own version of it, implemented it. Hence, we have the team we have now. And I was talking with Stephanie about that because every person that's not willing to learn those certain steps to turn around and teach other people, none of them are still on my team. Every one of them have quit or are sitting on the sidelines. Every one of them. And I'm not saying they won't be back. Like, I hope that they will be back. But they're only going to be back if they watch us keep going and it works. Because then they know it wasn't us who failed. It was them who failed, which means they can learn from it and do it again. So number 3 on page 238 is the wrong action at the wrong time or at the right time is a mistake. And then he goes into, like, how it could be the right timing, but you did the wrong thing. It's still going to lead to failure. Like, you could see that the time was right. You chose not to do it. You waited. It ends in failure. Whether it is, you know that this person's ready to start and you choose to not call them to follow up to get them started. You wait too long. They're going to choose a company that is on it, that wants them on their team, if that makes sense. Number 4 is the right action at the right time results in success. When the right leader and the right timing come together, incredible things happen. An organization will achieve its goals, reap incredible rewards, and gain momentum. That in itself sums up, like, this whole chapter. And he goes on to say that Winston Churchill said, there comes a special moment in everyone's life for which that person was born. The special opportunity, when he seizes it, will fulfill his mission, a mission for which that person was uniquely qualified in that moment. That person will find greatness, and it is their finest hour. Every leader desires to experience that moment. So I stopped and I was thinking about, okay, what is that for me? What is that for the people on my team? Like, what's our driving force? What is extremely exciting? How do we know we've gotten there? That kind of thing. And it's going to kind of tie into further in these chapters when he summarizes everything. But on page 241, he's talking about reading a situation and knowing what to do are not enough to make you succeed in leadership. If you want your organization, department, or team to move forward, you have to pay attention to timing. Only the right action at the right time will bring success. Anything else exacts a high price. No leader can escape the law of timing. So I'm going to ask you guys what you want to input on that chapter in the sense of like what stood out before we move to the next one here. Nicole.
Okay.
I'm looking back like, okay, what stood out?
Yeah.
Even from what I just said, how are you seeing it with just consultants that you tried starting, or like how can you apply it to your team in the last 6 months?
In the last 6 months. Well, I mean, especially that last paragraph was what stood out to me from the chapter the most, for sure, after reading about all the 4 different results that can happen. And I think for me, I've always thought like, okay, as long as you just know what to do, that's fine. Like, that's enough.
So are you saying that in this, you're realizing that it's not that you just know what to do?
Right.
You need to also know when to do it.
Well, yeah, because even if you know what to do, there's still 3 different ways it can go wrong.
Yep. Okay.
Exactly. Well, and I like the quote that's in the box on 237, that if you repeatedly show poor judgment, even in little things, people start to think that having you as the leader is the real mistake. And that is like me doubting myself when I'm doing my job. Learning to what am I trying to say? Learning to not doubt myself is going to make them have more confidence, I guess, in me than just. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you think that I walk into every person that I know that I'm training and know what to do with them?
Yes.
No.
Because you're Grace.
Do you think that I walk into every booth and know exactly how it's going to go and what to do?
No. No.
Like, you're going to get to the point where you've done it enough and you can see the expression on people's faces, or you can feel the tension. Like, you're going to know what questions to ask. There's some people think, for instance, that if you are at a booth, people will just literally walk up to you. Okay, some do. However, some of the best people on my team or in my organization as clients, I had to stop them. Why? Because they're on a mission, they're going, they don't want to be bothered.
Right.
Like, we have to learn how to do that. And then once people start talking, it's like, oh, you do this too? Oh my goodness, you have that too? Oh, and you have this? It's like the list goes on and on and on and on. So no, you learn that. But I was talking to somebody yesterday, and we were just talking about how different people react or respond. They react to different situations. They're not responding. But most people, if they feel like they don't know what they're talking about, they get scared, and then it shows all over them in that situation. Okay, most people think I know what I'm talking about, because when I am scared to death, hell or high water, I am going forward in confidence. It doesn't matter what I know about it. I'm going to go with what I know about it, and I am going to use that to make you believe that I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And because of that, I think that is the component of me that people think is scary, because they're like, oh, well, she knows exactly what no, she was scared shitless, so she decided to use it in confidence and make you all believe that she knew what she was doing. And you do that enough, and then you start to see, oh, well, it worked. Okay, I'll do that same thing again. Like, that's kind of what he's talking about. When you repeatedly do something, it retrains you, and that's exactly what he's talking about there too. Does anybody want to add anything on this before I go to the next one?
Nope.
Nicole?
Nope.
Okay, this one was super fun. Number 20. I'm not kidding. This may be my favorite chapter. Like, I don't think I can pick a favorite, but this one was awesome. And it is the law of explosive growth. To add growth, lead followers. To multiply, lead leaders. And this literally, Jenny kind of touched on this too from what they learned at the training in Arizona. But she said, on your way to area, you're learning how to lead. On your way to region, you're learning how to develop leaders. On your way to nation, I don't remember what that one was because region's next, but I wrote it down. But the next one was like, you're learning how to help people. Like, you're there for the person, you're not there for yourself. And that hit me so hard, because it's like, what are we doing here?
Mm-hmm.
We want people to follow us, but we want people to lead themselves. Like,
right.
You guys all need to start promoting to area and promoting people to area. You can't just keep following me, expecting me to be the amazing, awesome leader. You are your own leader. And the people that you're looking for you need to have your radar eyes on, looking for other leaders. So on 246, they were talking about like how to help other people lead. And his wife, he did this conference, he was super frustrated because everybody there in this other country, nobody wanted to learn how to lead. Everybody wanted him to fix their tiny little problems. So on the flight home, he was telling his wife how frustrated he was. He was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I travel thousands of miles to counsel people on petty conflicts. And if they would just turn their attention to becoming leaders, it would change their lives. After listening to that patiently, his wife replied, maybe you're the one who's supposed to do something about it. And that hit me really hard, because we in a lot of ways take and put our own spin on what something should look like and what our job is to do. And we're supposed to train people. We're supposed to blah, blah, blah. We're supposed to all these things. But it's like, what if the people that are in your circle, or the people that are in your organization, or that you're about to meet, what if the only way they're going to do something is because of you? Like, that's kind of heavy, but it's sobering. But honestly, I think for me, it's almost relieving, because it takes my fear and my doubt in 2 seconds and swaps it to, yeah, well, here's what's going on. Because it gives you purpose. It's like, well, if you're the one that's supposed to do it, it almost fires you up so quickly, because you're like, well, if I'm the only one that can do it, sweet. Why am I still sitting here? Why am I still being afraid? Let's go do it. So he goes on to talk about how they developed the program Equip. And I want to look into this program and see what it is, because I think it'd be fun to go through.
I've kind of heard about it, but I can't figure out how I've heard about it.
He's talked about it through the entire book.
No, before this book.
Well, they've got them everywhere. He was saying they've got them. Like, they have a lot. But he goes on to, on 248, he's talking about moving forward with leaders math, meaning that as a leader, most leaders are impatient and they want to move really fast. They want to see the vision fulfilled and they want to see progress. But good leaders will quickly assess where the organization is, project where it needs to grow and have, or to go, and then have strong ideas on how to get it there. The problem is that most of the time, the people and the organization lag behind the leader. For that leader, or for that reason, leaders always feel tension between them and their people and where they are to where they ought to be. This is hardcore truth. I was reading this just smiling. But he's saying if you are leading well, that's how it should be. Like, you should have this vision of where you're going and where you know you want to go. And waiting for people to catch it or to see it, that's what's going to be frustrating to you, not the fact that you don't have a vision in the first place. So becoming a leader who develops leaders requires an entirely different focus and attitude from simply attracting and leading followers. It takes a different mindset. So you're going from, if you develop yourself, you can experience personal success. If you develop a team, your organization can experience growth. But if you develop leaders, your organization can achieve explosive growth. And then he goes on to talk about like what it looks like if you're just leading followers. Okay, followers for us would be clients or consultants who just use products. But if you want to maximize leadership, help your organization reach its potential, start developing leaders. You can't have explosive growth any other way. And the reason being is that I can only be in so many places at once. Like, this would describe my business right now, hardcore. I can't be there helping Nicole and be there helping Krista and be there helping Jen and be there helping Lisa and Rochelle and train all these new people. Like, every person needs to take it on and take the responsibility of it on themselves, knowing that once I help train them, you know what to do. Then it's going to be phone conversations like, okay, I did X, Y, Z. What do I do next? This is what the outcome was. Give me the options. And like, you start instilling in them the way to do it. Eventually, you shouldn't even need to call me. Like, before you call me, every time you call me, the question you should ask yourself is, if Grace was dead, what would I do? I'm sure you figure it out. You wouldn't need me. Like, you have to figure it out and take initiative yourself. So he goes down for different focuses. Leaders who attract followers need to be needed. Or it could be a leader who develops leaders who wants to be succeeded, meaning that you want your people to be more successful than you are. And at the point that something happens to me, whatever, like, my leaders were so amazing, they kept going. Another one is leaders who attract followers develop the bottom 20%. Leaders who develop leaders develop the top 20%. And this is really, like, in some ways it makes me go, oh, but I don't want to leave those people behind. In other ways, I'm like, if they wanted to not be left behind, they'd be doing something about it. Leaders who attract followers focus on weaknesses. Leaders who develop leaders focus on strengths. Leaders who attract followers treat everyone the same. Leaders who develop leaders treat individuals differently, meaning that the leader who develops leaders gives rewards, resources, and responsibilities based on results. Think about that. Like, what do we want? We look at it like, okay, how much time do I want to spend with so-and-so? And now if you watch on Facebook, this is why Debbie Neal's always in pictures with the same people, because those people are producing results. They're sponsoring people. They're helping people promote. They are promoting. She's going to hang out with them because they're working. The next one, leaders who attract followers spend time with others. Leaders who develop leaders invest time in others. Leaders who attract followers grow by addition. And the page cheat sheet for this would be on 251. Leaders who develop leaders grow by multiplication. So this is talking about, on 251, if you add 10 followers to your organization and you have the power of 10 people. Add 10 leaders to your organization And you have the power of those 10 leaders times all the followers and leaders that those 10 people influence. That is what is called leadership math. It's the difference between addition and multiplication. It's like growing your organization by teams instead of individuals. So if I take the 4 of you on the call and I am working with 4 of you, each of you are only going to have followers. But if I teach the 4 of you to become leaders, each of you is going to teach people to become leaders. Each of those leaders is going to teach, or is going to have people that follow them in the sense of clients or consultants that just use products. But like, that's where our team starts to grow. This picture right here on 251 is why every person on my team is frustrated, because we are all looking for followers. We are not looking for leaders. We are not looking for people who are just going to take what we're doing and start duplicating and learning and keep going. Is this making sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
And this kind of gives us a different purpose or a different responsibility. Like, instead of being afraid of it, embrace it, because that's how you're going to grow. And this kind of touches on what Jenny was talking about when Linda Parker was training at the training in Arizona on stop showing people how to get to district. Just skip district. Show them how to get directly to area. Why? Because if they fall short, they still made it to district. They're still bonusing. But you're teaching them to find teams instead of, hey, go sell products to your friends and family, become a district manager. It's harder to go from that and then refocus to area than it is to go straight to area and say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to find you a team. This is what it looks like. Let's look for a minimum of 4 people. Who do you want those 4 people to be? However long it takes you to find those 4 people is how long it's going to take you to promote. Let's see if we can do that in 2 months. Like, how freaking awesome would that be? And it's kind of cool that she's bringing this up, because one of my goal cards that I wrote and was like, it's on a note and I read it every night, is talking about how I help people get to area in 1 month, because I'm watching all these other teams do it. I'm like, how are they doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Jenny told us they're showing them how to get to area. They're saying, if you need $10,000, you find these people, because you have 5 to 7 people helping you get to that $10,000 instead of you doing it personally. Like, it goes from impossible to, okay, here goes. Why? Well, what if I find 14? You find 14, you're bonusing as an area. Like, your paycheck's like roughly $3,500. That's awesome. Is this helping anybody? Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Amen.
I'm not saying this can't, like, there's not a part of this that is scary, but think about it. If we have the idea that it's hard to get to $1,000 or it's hard to get to $2,500, if we do that, anybody on our team is going to divide that by a quarter, and that's what they're going to do. That sucks.
Yes.
That means that every person on our team is going to do roughly $750. That's not going to help you build what you're wanting to build. That's not going to get you a paycheck. It's going to make a difference for a job. This goes on 252. He says, leaders who attract followers impact only people that they touch. Leaders who develop leaders impact people way beyond their reach. And talking about like having somebody else, you don't ever know who you're talking to at a presentation. You could show up and everybody does nothing, but that person could have given you a referral, or maybe a little thing that they won they didn't want to use and they gave to somebody else, and that the person they gave it to calls you, and that person goes region in 6 months. Like, treat every person like a 10. You have no clue who they are or who they know or what they're going to do with what you help them with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, remember the ripple. Just keep dropping it, and honestly, drop a bigger stone. If you want to wave, drop a bigger stone instead of just a little pebble. Ooh, I'll just give a little effort here, and then you kind of get a little bitty wave. Go get a big freaking rock, throw it in, and like get a wave. It's going to hit somebody. He goes on to say that the leaders who only attract followers but never develop leaders get tired. Why? because they themselves must deal with every person under their authority. Instead of being able to impact only the people you can touch personally, if you're helping develop leaders, you're developing those people, and those people ripple out and help all the other people. The better the leaders they develop, the greater the equality and quantity and the quantity of followers, and the greater the reach, meaning drop a bigger rock. He goes on to talk about like, why do most people not have leaders? Number one, leaders are hard to find. Leaders are like eagles, they don't flock. That's why they are so hard to find. They are flying. So start looking up instead of looking down. Number two, leaders are hard to gather because they are entrepreneurial and they want to do it their own way. If you try to recruit them, they want to know that where you're going and how you plan to get there, who else you're planning to take you, and whether they can drive. What you're doing has to be more compelling than what they're currently doing. If it's not attracted to them. Most organizations desire stability. Leaders want excitement. Most organizations desire structure. Leaders want flexibility. Most organizations place a high value on following rules. Leaders want to think outside the box. So if you want to gather leaders, you must create a place where they can thrive. I'm going to mute you guys so I can record, and then I'll unmute you at the end, okay? Number three, leaders are hard to keep, meaning that it's hard to find them and hard to gather them, but it's even more difficult to keep them because the only way to keep a leader is to become a better leader yourself, meaning that if you keep growing to stay ahead of them, you can lead them because you're constantly adding value to them. Once you quit adding value to them, they're going to quit following you. Your goals must be to keep developing them so that they can realize their potential. Only a leader can do that for another leader because it takes a leader to raise up another leader. Meaning that if you don't see something in yourself, but someone else sees it in you, that 9 times out of 10 is what's going to keep you working. I can tell you the fact that Deanna Herron on the very first trip I earned told me that if Arbonne couldn't figure out because so many people were going and they didn't know if they had enough rooms for people, so they were splitting people into different weeks, but I already bought my tickets, and she told me that if Arbonne wasn't able to get me a room, she would personally buy me a room so that I can have that trip. Like that, every time I see her, she will say hello to me. If I text her, sometimes she's like, well, who is this? And then I'll tell her, she's like, oh my goodness, how are you? Like, she talks to me like a person, but she's somebody that most people look at and think that she's snotty or whatever. But I was a district manager the very first trip I earned, and she was like, I will pay for your room. Like, now that I think about it, or like even like at the time, it was kind of, I think I wanted to protect myself, so I didn't want it to mean too much. But who would do that? Like, you're looking at somebody who's doing like $2,500 a month, and to earn the trip, I think I had months where I was doing like $7,000-8,000 a month. And she's like, Grace, I will pay for your room. Like, she knows, every time I talk to her, she's still like, when are you going region? Like, when do I get to come to Montana to a car presentation? By the way, Deanna Herron will probably be at my car presentation. But like, that's cool. Having somebody believe in you and they don't really know you means a lot, because you can look at any person, even the people that are coming as guests. Every one of them, all they're saying is, please believe in me. That's it. Every person on your team. I can look at Whitney and see it. I can look at Rochelle and see it. I can look at Lisa. I can look at every one of my team members. You want somebody to believe in you. That's why you're still here, because you know somebody does. And when you build that for other people, like, you are adding value to them. And then they're going to be willing to stay with you. And then he goes on to say, do that long enough and they may never want to leave. Good. I hope that I love my team enough that they go somewhere else, they never find it, they come back. They're like, yeah, well, she kind of sucked, or he sucked. Like, instead of being valued, they go from that to being a number, like having a dollar sign on them. And we don't want that for people. So 255 is talking about the more that you invest in people and the longer that you do it, the greater the growth and the higher the return. Meaning that the more that you're doing it, the more that you're showing people what to do, the more that you're believing in them, you're going to keep developing leaders, which means you're going to keep multiplying. Meaning that if I develop 4 leaders and each of those 4 leaders develop 4 leaders, I just multiplied from 4 leaders to 24 leaders. And it just keeps going on and on and on. That's what our team is missing. That is what we're going to start growing and working on. Because if you will be able to reach your potential and help your organization reach its loftiest goals only if you begin developing leaders instead of merely attracting followers. Leaders who develop leaders experience an incredible multiplication effect in their organization that could be achieved in no other way. Not by increasing resources, reducing costs, increasing profit margins, improving systems, implementing quality procedures, or doing anything else. The only way to experience an explosive level of growth is to do the math, the leader's math, and that's incredible power of explosive growth. And that is when you're watching people that promote and that keep promoting, and they literally go from like district to area in a month, and then they go from area to region to nation in 6 to 7 months. This is what they're doing because it's impossible to do it yourself. So going on here, Nicole, do you have anything you want to add?
I don't think so.
Did I pretty much cover it? I'm telling you, that was an awesome chapter. Okay, so number 21, the law of legacy. This one is just talking about how, as a leader, you'll have to remember and focus on what do you want to leave behind. If you ask people, what do you want people to say at your funeral? Most people won't even know what the answer should be. Most people don't even know like what to even say. Go on to think of it like life is like a parachute. You only get it right the first time. You get no other chances. And he just is talking about in one life sentence, what do you want people to remember about you? And as he's going through, he's like, it changed through my life. It ended on, I wanted to add value to leaders who will multiply the value of others. It went from just being, I want to be a great pastor, to I want to become an amazing speaker, to I want to be a good leader. Like it just kept growing. And as we grow, it will change. We have to multiply value to other people. Because your life sentence not only sets the direction for your life, also determines the legacy that you're going to leave. Take a while to just think about, what do you want to do? Success doesn't count for much if you leave nothing behind. And I like that quote because it's like, I can achieve whatever I want. And he goes on to say, people are going to forget it. People are going to forget what your team did. People are going to forget who you helped. People are going to forget the best thing that you ever did. But if you keep adding value to other people and you're multiplying that value to them, and that is your goal, people are never going to forget it because they're going to see it on a daily basis. Know the legacy that you want to leave is number 1. This is in how to develop your leadership legacy. Know the legacy that you want to leave. Most people simply accept their life. They don't lead their life. So be proactive. Think about how you want to live and what do you want people to remember about you. Number 2, live the legacy that you want to leave. Meaning that what you're doing, live it in the sense of that you're actually putting it into action. Number 3, choose who you will carry, or choose who will carry on your legacy. Someday people will summarize your life in a sentence. Pick what you want that sentence to be now. A legacy is created only when a person puts his organization into the position to do great things without him. Number 4, make sure you pass the baton. Letting people take on what you started and being great, like let other people do it. And this is funny. I think that 2 pages were stuck together when I read my chapter because I have 2 pages that there's not a thing highlighted on. I was like, wow, this is a short chapter. Now I know why. The next one is make sure when you're passing the baton on, we have made, like, not anybody, and not just anybody can make something successful, but anybody can make an organization look good for a moment. But leaders who are leaving a legacy, they're looking at the long view. They want to help people keep building and make their legacy last, in the sense of they're making their, what do you call it? They're letting their organization keep going long after they're gone. And he's talking about Mother Teresa and how what Mother Teresa started is still going on. And she's passed away, but they went to go tour her home, which is where her tomb is, and they couldn't because there was something going on in that room. So they were told that they needed to just wait. And he asked somebody, a nun passing through, like, what was going on, why, what the dinner and the ceremony and stuff was for. And she said, oh, we're taking on 45 new members into our order. And he left thinking Mother Teresa would be proud, because what she's started is still going on. Very few leaders will keep passing it on. A life isn't significant except for the impact it has on other people. When all is said and done, your ability as a leader will not be judged by what you achieve personally. Your ability will be judged on how well we invested and carried in the people who carried on after we are gone. A life isn't significant except for its impact on other people. So this is kind of, it just goes along with, like, what applying the laws, like how to do it. And he's talking about how your legacy should be closely related to who you are as a person and your sense of purpose in life. Why are you here? Like, that's what your legacy sentence should be. Number 2, he talks about only by changing the way that you live will you be able to create the legacy that you want. So if you want this legacy, write it out, and what are you going to need to change to get it? It may even include behavioral changes, character development, education, working methods, relationship building styles, and so on. You have to work actively on what you want. And then number 3, I liked, he's asking, who are you going to invest to carry on your legacy? Begin investing in them today. So this kind of goes to, on the conclusion of the book, is everything rises and falls on leadership. And as you reach the highest levels, don't forget to take others with you so that they can become leaders of tomorrow. Nicole, in your book, do you have an Appendix A and Appendix B? Appendix A is where you go through and evaluate yourself on all of them?
No.
Okay, I will, before I write in mine, I'll take pictures and upload them so that you can print them off and then take them yourself. But I'm going to, our homework for this week, and as I started reading these chapters and the chapters from last week, started to realize that we could just close this book and be finished with it and move on to the next book. Like, we have a process, we need to see progress, let's go. But that was not the purpose of this book. I don't want to close the pages of this book and have every person who read it not remember a thing we just read. So homework for this week is going to be going through and just doing the applying part of each chapter. Applying the law of respect, applying the law of empowerment, applying the law of buy-in, law of priorities. Go through and do those, and then answer the questions on Appendix A that's evaluating yourself on each of those laws. And then Appendix B, this is going into the 21 Laws of Growth Guide, meaning that if you need help in one of these areas, this is the book that he has to help with that specific thing. And it's super cool because the next book that we're going to be reading, which is Failing Forward, helps with some of these, like, he talks about some of these laws. And I think it would be awesome if we just started reading the books to make sure that we're implanting this into our head, I guess, is the best way to put it. reading the books that he has that help build on this book, because he goes on to say, like, not every person is amazing at every one of these 21 laws. Like, some of them you're going to suck at, and that's why you want to look and continue to look for other people on your team. So the only way that you can get better at them is to keep implementing them. And what's in this book, seriously, is going to change our life and our business. And each person's business, not just mine personally, but every person's. And it's going to change what we look for in people and so on. So that's going to be our homework, and we're going to work on that. And then talk about that next week. And then we will start failing forward the next week after that. So let's finish out this next week with this. Nicole, do you have anything you would like to add?
Let me look. I think you covered everything. My chapters, I think, were a little shorter too.
Yeah, and I think your chapters
So-
are combined in this book. They're combined into different chapters. So
Yeah.
they might be under a law, but some of the information yours, I think some of them he put 3 chapters of yours into 1 chapter of ours,
Yeah.
and then named it something different in our book and added more. So there's more laws in this book.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
No, I don't think I have anything to add.
Okay. How do you feel about doing, like, finishing up this book completely instead of just closing it and being finished and, like, going on our merry way?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
I feel good about that.
Okay. So I'm going to post the photos of this, and then people can just, and I would suggest printing them off so you can actually put an answer next to it, and then you can keep the paper, like, put the paper with the book, because as you grow, you're going to need, like, you're going to have things that you bring back up as training to people. It's going to be so much easier instead of just finding a notebook that says A, B, C, and you don't even know what A, B, or C was.
Right.
But then we can come back to this book, say we redo this study again next year, we can come back to this book, it'll take less time, but we can go back through it, maybe in 3 weeks, just do a recap of what we highlighted in our books, and then take the leadership evaluation again, and then see where we've grown, which would be super cool, because that's the whole purpose anyway. So that's what I got. I love you all. Have an amazing day.
Woo!
And yeah, we got a lot of, like, I feel like I've learned a lot. Like, this morning I woke up exhausted, but I slept so good last night. And then I started reading, and it was like, as soon as I started reading, I just had peace. It was like, everything's going to be fine. Just keep going. Like, you got this. So that's kind of cool. I'm excited.
Word.
Word.
My throat is
Bye.
full of protein.